Hello, everyone, and welcome to my weekly program, Making the Case. I am very pleased to be back with you this week, live. The past 2 weeks,
I was absent due to some of my official duties, and so I missed very much
being here on the program, but thank you to all of those who reached out. But I'm very pleased to be back here with you live this evening. If you are joining me from Facebook, please share this live so that we can reach as many people as possible. If you're joining me on MTV, Channel 14, Cable 65, good evening and welcome to you. If you're joining me on Freedom Radio, a special good evening to you as well. Last week, we celebrated our 53rd Republic anniversary, and I had the honor and privilege to represent our government at our anniversary celebration in Washington. So I was there for a few days, and I was given the opportunity to address our diaspora and to interact with all of the attendees, to meet and greet staff of the embassy. I also interacted with our ambassador, His Excellency Sam Hines, who is resident in Washington. So we had a very good interaction. Lots of people turned out for that event. I was very, very pleased to see many people traveling across the United States to attend that event. So not only Guyanese who are living in Washington, but Guyanese from out of state came and supported the event. Guyanese from Atlanta, from New York, from Minnesota, from Florida. I met several groups of people who traveled for many miles to attend that function. And I was very pleased to see how active our diaspora is in Washington and further afield. We also had several Republic anniversary celebrations in other countries. And a group from Jamaica sent me some videos and some messages of the Republic anniversary celebration that they had there as well. I was very, very impressed with the diaspora in Jamaica, who came together and hosted a very successful event. They gave speeches, they sang songs, and they spoke very highly of Guyana. And I want to congratulate that group there in Jamaica. Similarly, in Suriname, we had a celebration there that was attended by Minister Sonia Parag. Very well attended function and celebration as well. So our diaspora across the region and further afield is very, very active, and I must commend the diaspora and our Guyanese brothers and sisters overseas for their continued interest in what is taking place in Guyana and for their continued support. Like I said, I was given the opportunity to address the gathering in Washington, who were very receptive. And after the official ceremony, I spent about 4 hours intermingling, meeting people from different areas in Washington and in other states. And they were very, very intrigued by what is taking place in our country. Some of them have children who are first-generation Americans, and their kids who are also adults. So I am referring here to Guyanese who migrated 30, 35 years ago and had children in the United States. So even their kids who are US citizens are very, very curious about what is taking place here in Guyana. They're curious about traveling here to the birthplace of their parents and to be able to see exactly what all of the excitement is about in Guyana. And I must say that it's what is happening in our country, the successes that we have been having in our country, the visible progress and transformation that is taking place in our country is not going unnoticed. So not only are members of the diaspora or Guyanese brothers and sisters overseas who are paying attention, but literally everyone. And I say this because on my journey to Washington, I passed through Miami, and I had to take the connecting flight from Miami to Washington. So in Miami, I was received by a protocol officer who escorted me to catch my connecting flight. This protocol officer is Colombian, never been to Guyana, has no family in Guyana, has no roots or any connection to Guyana. But he impressed me with his knowledge of Guyana and with his knowledge of all of the activities that are taking place in Guyana. So in a short walk from the time I left the aircraft to get to my gate for the connecting flight, he asked me about a dozen questions about Guyana. And it all had to do with progress that is taking place here. It had to do with the oil and gas industry, with the excitement of our country being an oil-producing nation. And of course, he who has been paying attention is very excited about the future of Guyana. And he was also updating me with the frequency of travelers now, the increase in travelers going to Guyana. And he told me that he sees so many engineers and people from ExxonMobil and technical specialists and so on who are traveling back and forth to Guyana. And he had nothing but positive news to report to me about what the fellas who are operating in the oil and gas sector was saying about Guyana. And of course, he was able to link what he was hearing from them in terms of our production of oil, and he was able to link that with his own reading that he has been doing about the progress that is taking place, and rightfully so, from all that the government is doing in terms of transforming our economy and ensuring that we transform our country and thereby transforming lives. So I was very pleased to have that interaction with a non-Guyanese who is just paying attention, who is doing his own reading, his own research, and is very much aware of all that is taking place here in Guyana. And I must say so for most of the people in our diaspora as well. But during my several hours of interaction with my Guyanese brothers and sisters, several of them did put the question to me about what the opposition is saying and what some of the minions in New York and the other states are saying, like the Rickford Burks and the bench cop and so on, what they're talking about racial discrimination. And they asked questions not in an accusatory way, because one lady, for example, said to me, if you listen to a group of people, you would think that there are two Guyanas. So while the government, our government, the People's Progressive Party civic government, is talking about a one Guyana and are implementing policies and programs and investing in our economy to ensure that prosperity comes to every home, they are aware that there is this group of people that is fueled by the opposition who are claiming that there is racial inequality and there is discrimination. So while they're not seeing any evidence of that, they naturally wanted to know what my response is to that. And so I took my time and I took them through all of the progress that has been taking place in our country. And I asked them to do their own independent research. You know, in Guyana, like anywhere else in the world, where you get your news from will determine your opinion on a particular matter or a particular subject. So in the United States, for example, if you watch CNN or MSNBC and you watch Fox News, your opinion of America and the events in that country will differ because it's two sides, two extreme sides, ends of the equation. So the hardcore Republicans will watch Fox News and they will only get their news and their reporting and the opinions based on those that emanate from that network. If you are a liberal Democrat and you watch NBC, you will only get the views and opinions of like-minded people. And so your own opinion will be based on what you've heard on that news network. And then, of course, there are independent networks, there are international news networks, and there's also the opportunity for you to do your own research, which is the best. Because if you do your own reading, as long as you pay attention to the source in which you are obtaining your information from as well, but if you do your own independent research, you're most likely to get accurate results, accurate information, and you are most likely to get the facts. So I said to some of the people who are there, I said, if you listen to certain people, of course that will be your opinion because that's all you're hearing. You're hearing divisive rhetoric, you're hearing hate speech, you're hearing only about racial inequality, but there's no fact or facts to back up that opinion. That is someone's opinion. It is not a statement based in fact or reality. And so I urged some of them, and I must say that they were all extremely receptive. And by the end of our conversation, they were convinced. And I said to them further, don't take it from me. Please do your own research and you will see for yourself. You measure the progress. You base your opinions on all that is taking place in our country. You tell me how a cash grant for all school children, every school child, is discriminatory. You tell me how building a highway or highways or a bridge that will bring ease to tens of thousands of Guyanese, how that is discriminatory. You tell me how building hospitals, 7 modern hospitals to serve the public, all the people of the country, how that is discriminatory. You tell me how training teachers and improving our infrastructure so that we deliver quality education to our children who can study in comfort. Show me how that is discriminatory. Show me how when we create jobs in the public sector, how we incentivize the private sector to stimulate hiring. Show me how the part-time jobs program is discriminatory. When all of this is done in full public view and everybody can see who the beneficiaries are at these events, tell me how that is discriminatory. Tell me how the housing program is discriminatory when this too is done in the full public view of everyone and you can see the beneficiaries, the media is there conducting interviews, speaking to people. Tell me how that program is discriminatory. Tell me how the investments in the water sector, so that all of our people can have access to safe drinking water, reliable water, through the construction of treatment plants. Show me how that is discriminatory. And I can go on and go through a list, or the entire list of our public sector investment program to benefit all of our people. Guyanese from region 1 to 10, including our Amerindian brothers and sisters, who we take special interest in because of their geographical location. And I can go through that list, and there is not a single case that anyone can point to show that there is any inequality in the way we deliver goods and services to our people and in the way that we govern. We have always governed with policies that are consistent with the One Guyana. The One Guyana policy is not a soundbite. It's not a slogan. It has meaning. It has weight. And we give life to it through our programs, through our projects, and through investing in our people. That's how we give life to it. And that is how we demonstrate what we mean by One Guyana. One Guyana goes beyond racial harmony and unity. It is ensuring that every Guyanese can prosper. As the president puts it, his priority, his obsession is ensuring that prosperity gets to every single home in Guyana. And I spent, like I said, 4 hours just about talking to people one-on-one. I remember even a Jamaican woman who was there at the Washington event. And she said to me, she has a group of friends, Afro-Guyanese, older women, who tell her sometimes about the things that they're hearing. And of course, they're hearing it from the set of people who only want to divide and destruct and destroy. So she would say that they would tell her sometimes that this is what these people are saying. And she of herself, because her husband is Guyanese, and he is very knowledgeable of what is taking place at home, and he would tell her differently. And she would be weighing in her mind, how am I hearing this one side of the story, and then on the other hand, some of my friends are saying these things. And so she put the question to me, and I took her through the examples that I just gave, and I spent time elaborating on all of the programs that we have here at home and in the manner in which we are governing for a particular result, and that is to ensure that our wealth is redistributed to our people by improving their quality of life and their well-being. And I sent her to do research on one topic. I said, you can go and check one recent incident. And I elaborated on the Mocha situation. And I said, if you were only to see a video, and she had no knowledge of this situation, but I used it as an example to show her how you can have an event taking place and you can have two completely polar opposite stories that people can tell. And I asked her to go and do her own research. And I said, if 28 people could have accepted an offer from the government and could have been working with the government, and 7 are claiming that they are being discriminated against and that the government didn't reach out, and that and if she believed the rhetoric that there is racial discrimination and they're being targeted because they're Afro-Guyanese, if 28 could have relocated and started their life anew Is that not enough evidence to show you that the other side of the story is untrue? And so she listened and she analyzed and she said, this is the type of information that I need so I can go and check for myself and I can talk to my friends. And so I encouraged her. I said, you don't have to quote me. You can go and check for yourself. Look at all of the programs that we have. Understand how we are making investments in our people. And then you come to your own conclusion whether or not the government is fair and whether or not the government is ensuring that the rights of our people are protected and whether we are ensuring that all Guyanese are treated equally. So that is what I urged everyone at that function to do. And I'm doing the same thing here again tonight because I know that there are a lot of people who are going to be tuned in to listen to the program and who were recently introduced to me as well, and I asked them if they can join and they can follow and they can be abreast with everything that is taking place in our country. We are builders. We are people who know how to govern. We are people with good intention, and we understand that at this point in our history, we have to do the heavy lifting, as President Ali says. We have to do the heavy lifting. This is the period where we have to do the building. And we will build this country and prepare our people for the future, for 2030 and beyond, when the landscape will change, when the investments will change, when the business climate will change, when the education sector, the health sector, when everything will be transformed, the housing sector, when everything will be transformed, we have to prepare our people to be active participants in a transformed economy at that time. And so people have to transform their lives and their thinking along with the landscape of our country. Every day you drive down the road, you see the landscape of our country changing. How many of you have taken time to look at the beautification project that the President and the First Lady have embarked upon? These things are happening before our very eyes, but so often we are caught up with our daily lives. We are caught up with our own issues. Sometimes we're too busy. We're not stopping to take stock of our surrounding, what is going on in our environment. We're so busy often, you might be in traffic and you're fretting about the traffic or you're upset. But sometimes you might be stuck in traffic and you can look out the window and you can see what is taking place around you. And you can spend a minute or two just analyzing the transformation that is unfolding before your very eyes. It's not perfect, but it's happening. And it's happening with a purpose to enrich lives, to enrich well-being. The project that the President is doing along Lamaha is an exceptional project where people can go, you can take your families, it's family friendly. Families can go out there, they can exercise, they can spend time, the kids can play, it's a safe environment. It's a very beautiful environment, and you can spend time out there. That is space that is created for families and for families to become stronger. But how many of us utilize that? How many of us utilize the spaces around that are being created to enrich lives, to promote well-being? That is the type of city that we want to build, or cities that we want to build in our country going forward. And so we have to remember sometimes to live consciously in spite of our busy, hectic schedules, and we're all busy. And this is the time, the Bible says there's a time for harvesting. This is the time for harvesting. People have busy lives, but it's important for us sometimes to stop and appreciate everything that is changing around us, and to see that all of it has a purpose. There is no wasteful spending. All of the spending that is taking place in our country, it is being invested back into our economy. It is creating jobs, and it is investment for the future. When we spend billions of dollars to build a 300 megawatt power plant at Wales that will be delivered before 2025, to deliver on our commitment to reduce electricity costs by 50%, that is for every single Guyanese. That will bring relief to every single Guyanese. And there is, again, no discrimination in that policy or in that spending. And so I was more than happy to speak with people and to take them through the progress and all of the development, positive growth and development that is taking place in Guyana. And of course, I had to encourage all of my Guyanese brothers and sisters, as well as their kids who may be first generation Americans, to come home, to have a look, to see how Guyana has changed. Some people have said they haven't been home in 30 years, 25 years. I encourage them to come home. And I'm very happy to meet those people who said they were probably home 5 years ago or 3 years ago. And that's good, because they will be able to measure the progress from 3 years ago to now. So I especially encourage those people who were here 2020 or before 2020 to come to see what is taking place now. And if they're thinking about coming home, to encourage them to do so, whether it is returning home for retirement, or whether it is coming home for investment purposes, because our priority is ensuring that there is a space or a place for Guyanese to invest and to earn in our country. That is first and foremost. Guyanese must have the advantage to invest and to earn in Guyana. So, moving on just a bit, but just before I move on, for those of you who may have missed the publication of the Gazette or the announcement that June 12, 2023, local government elections will be held. So that date has been identified, June 12, for the holding of local government elections. And these elections are extremely important, and I want to urge everyone, please come out and please support the candidates of the People's Progressive Party Civic, especially at the mayor and city council, especially the people in Georgetown who have been complaining for decades about the condition of the city and who want improved services within and around Georgetown. Please come out and support our candidates. In one election, we were able to increase our representation at the mayor and city council by 5 votes, by 5 seats, representing 5 votes. So we had 2 representatives on the mayor and city council pre-2018. And after the elections of 2018, we were able to increase that by 5. So we have 7 People's Progressive Party civic councillors now at the mayor and city council. But it is not enough. The APNU, AFC councillors have dominated the city for decades. The PNC has been in charge of the city from its inception, and it is time for a change. So I do not want people to miss the importance of this election, it is extremely important that people turn out in Georgetown and in our NDCs and our local authority areas across the country and support the People's Progressive Party Civic overwhelmingly, so that we can send a strong message to the PNC, the APNU, AFC, whatever they call themselves. I want us to send a strong message that we reject their policies, that we reject their divisiveness, and that we want unity, but that we also want progress. And we can only get progress under the PPPC. You know, there has to come a time. There has to come a time when Guyanese from all walks of life and from every race and every religion to really take an honest look, an unbiased look at all that the government is doing and all that the PPPC has done for this country over the many decades. And to compare that to the destructiveness of the PNC, the destructive behavior, the laziness, the lack of vision, lack of innovation, lack of any solid plans, and lack of any achievements by that party. Everything in this country was built by the PPP. There must come a time where we must do an honest assessment. When you look around, doesn't matter where you are, which region you are. You know, when I go into the hinterland regions, when I go in regions 1, 7, 8, 9, everything I look around at, the stories that the PPP built it. Every school, every health center built by the PPP. Every community ground. There must come a time where we have to be honest with ourselves and understand that this party, the PPP, represents progress. So not only in its name, but in its action. And this is the party that will take Guyana into the future, will bring prosperity to every home in Guyana and to every Guyanese family. Every Guyanese family must thrive and progress and progress under our government. Now shifting to the opposition a little bit. You know, I have to give them some treatment every week when I come on this program. And you know, it's good because it spices things up a bit, and it's also good. This program is called Making the Case. And so it would not be making the case if we don't have a true comparison of leadership under one party versus another, of actions of one party versus another, the PPP versus the APNU, AFC. That is how people make decisions. People make decisions when they analyze a situation and they have to decide, is this decision right for me or is this other decision right for me? Which way do I go? Where is the progress? Who should I support? So this program is always constantly comparing the achievements of one party. I don't have to say the achievements of the two parties because the achievements are only on the one party. Let's be real and honest. So the achievements of the PPPC and the lack of achievement of the APNU AFC. Understanding that a party lacks any achievement is only one aspect of understanding what takes place within that party. You also have to understand why that party lacks any achievement, lacks any substantive accomplishment, and most importantly, why they are a failure. And it comes back to their ideology. It comes back to their philosophy. it comes back to their conviction of a consumption-based economy. By consumption-based, I mean it was evident in all of their policies when they were in government. And the Vice President has spoken about this, and he spoke about the spending in the public sector on capital projects from 2014, how it decreased progressively under the APNU AFC. The capital spending, which means that they were not investing in the public sector, they were not investing in the capital projects. Now the capital projects are the schools, the hospitals, the roads, the infrastructure to improve people's lives. They weren't investing in housing, they weren't investing in water. So these are the investments, or in electricity, these are the investments that improve people's lives, that transform people's lives. That's the capital side. Their spending decreased in the capital side, but increased on the recurrent side, which is the consumption-based side of your budget, which is your wages and salaries, your bills, your travel expenses, your food in government. That is the consumption side. And that is where their spending increased. And that is a true demonstration, if you want to put it in simple terms, of what we mean by the PNC or the APNU AFC being a consumption-based party. That is what we mean. So when they utilize this money and they utilize our finances, the finances of the country, they utilize it in on a consumption basis. So it doesn't create anything for the future. It is consumed. It is spent on nothing that improves people's lives. It's not spent on the people. It's spent on themselves. It's spent on running the government. And so if you truly want to build a country and you want to transform people's lives, you have to invest in the capital expenditure. And that's what we are doing. So there's a very big difference in our ideology, or the ideology of the two parties, or the philosophy or conviction of the two parties on how to build a country. And that is just one difference in the ideology and philosophy. I mean, we can talk about their ideology or their belief, we should say, in a non-democratic society. They are not a party that believes in democracy. They have a legacy and a history of rigging elections. That is their ideology. They don't believe in earning the votes of the people or in earning the support of the people and in conducting free and fair elections. They believe in rigging elections. That's another very important distinction that people have to draw. A very important distinction between these two parties. The PPPC has always advocated for free and fair elections. We have always participated in free and fair elections. We believe in democracy, because if there's no democracy, the very fabric of our society will be destroyed. You can't have an economy that is thriving in an undemocratic state, or that is run by an authoritarian government. The two just doesn't go hand in hand. So those are some of the differences between the two parties. Then you have, I saw a day or two ago, I think it was yesterday, the APNU put out a post on their Facebook page that extracted 4 points, as they call it, 4 of the takeaways from the opposition leader's budget speech 2023. And so I had a field day with this. I don't know if you can see my handwriting, but every line, I could have gone through line by line, and I'll spend some time. I hope you know what happens with the time. I can go through line by line and put holes in all of the points that are listed here, and to show the duplicity of a party that says one thing and does another when it is in government. And so there has to come a time where people realize that these are all lies and that none of this will become a reality. And I will endeavor to point out some of them now. I realize that the time is moving quickly. And so, to my operator, I know you have a video that you're supposed to be showing, but this is more, I need to get to this first. Now, they said this. It started off by saying the first line, if it wasn't a statement from a political party, it would be so laughable, because you and I know different. They referred to Aubrey Norton as the most visionary in recent decades in Guyana. Now that's the opening statement. So you can only imagine the rest that is following from this man that they refer to as the most visionary in recent decades in Guyana. They've forgotten about David Granger. So this is all to patronize Aubrey Norton, and this is to make Aubrey Norton feel good about himself. I wouldn't be surprised if Aubrey Norton is the one who wrote this himself, about himself, because I don't know who in his party is convinced that he is a visionary leader. Aubrey Norton has no followers. And if he has no followers, then you're not a leader. A leader has followers. A leader has people who are supporting him, who has his back, who will protect him. This man has no followers. This man is surrounded by people who want to see him fail, because they know that he does not have leadership qualities. He does not have basic comprehension skills, and he cannot analyze anything. And they fully well know that he cannot lead that party to victory in any elections. So let's move on a bit. So he has people in the sidelines who are just waiting for him to fail, who have daggers for him. And we saw that with the leaked tape with My Paul and Roysdale, with the blank check story. And these people are just waiting in the sidelines for him to fail, and they will accelerate his failure. And they will do whatever they can to manipulate any situation that will embarrass him and that will put on display his weakness. So they said that they're extracting 4 points. I'm still looking at the statement. So there's several takeaways, they said, from his inspiring presentation, and they want to highlight 4. So they picked out 4. The first one, they said, the overarching thrust of putting people first in our development. And they quoted the opposition leader, Aubrey Norton, and he said, we will invest in our people. We in the APNU AFC will pursue this strategy of ensuring our policies, programs, and projects are geared to improve the quality of life of our people. That is why we name it a people-centered program. Now he references a strategy here. I don't know which strategy he's talking about. They have no strategy to improve people's lives or to invest in our people. And I made several references to that already by showing you how their lack of investment in the capital side of the budget, in capital investments, how that is not investing in our people. So to invest in people, you have to spend in capital projects. You have to spend to improve people's lives. So he doesn't say how he's going to do any of this. He says that this will be translated into such goals, he calls them goals as poverty eradication, which is, this is not more than a slogan. That's all that it is. Poverty eradication, guaranteed minimum livable income for families, food and nutrition security, housing for all. Housing for all. Genuine cost of living relief, and measures to create good paying jobs. This is the biggest bluff I have ever heard in my life, or I have ever read in my life. Anybody with an ounce of sense can see the nonsense that this is. This is all very flowery language. You know, it sounds very nice. It has a nice ring to it. Talking about goals and poverty reduction, guaranteed minimum livable wage. What is that? How are you paying for that? Poverty eradication. A party talking about poverty eradication made no investment in people, sent thousands of people home, did not create any jobs, removed cash grants from our school children, took away subsidy from the water and electricity subsidy from pensioners, and you're talking about poverty eradication? When you suffer the most vulnerable people in our country? How can you speak about poverty eradication? What have you done? Point to the policy. Point to a single policy that you implemented when your party was in office to reduce poverty. He can't. He cannot, because none exists. Guaranteed livable income, housing for all. Imagine a party talking about housing for all that didn't create a single new housing scheme, create a single new house lot, talking about housing for all. Our constitution doesn't talk about housing for all. It talks about access to affordable housing for people, and it is the responsibility of the government to ensure that we create that opportunity for people to become homeowners. And that's what we have been doing through several programs. Housing for all. That is so empty. What does that mean? How are you doing that? Your party was in office 3 years ago. What did you do for the housing sector? For most of the time that you were in office, for 3 years you gave housing $0 in the budget. Housing got no allocation under the APNU, AFC budgets in the parliament. 2016, 17, 18, nothing for the Central Housing and Planning Authority. Now, those are facts. So I'm urging people to check, and you will see for yourself genuine cost of living relief, good paying jobs. You put people out of work and talking about good paying jobs. What is a good paying job? There is no detail in any of these policies here. And imagine we're still on one. Let's move on. Let's move on to two, because I sense I'll run out of time. Growing the economy, particularly the non-oil sector. These are people who killed every industry when they were in office, particularly the agriculture sector. Made no investments there, made no investment in rice, made no investment in sugar. They bankrupted the Forestry Commission. The loggers were punishing. They couldn't work. They gave no new concessions. And you're talking about growing the economy, particularly the non-oil sector. You're talking about the non-oil sector now But when you go on your press conferences and so on, all you talk about is oil money. And now here, they're giving a statement about growing the non-oil economy. They talk about removing taxes for agro-processing and other manufacturing. This is a party that put taxes on machinery and equipment, including machinery and equipment, especially machinery and equipment for agriculture. So how are you now talking about removing taxes that will see the non-oil sector thrive? And in this case, they said agro-processing and manufacturing. Every Guyanese knows that the biggest hindrance, especially the business community, that the biggest issue faced by the private sector, especially the manufacturing sector, is the high cost of electricity. That is the biggest challenge that the manufacturers face, the high cost of electricity. So when we bring down the cost of electricity by 50%, the manufacturing sector, all of our industries will thrive because their main input, electricity, energy that have to go into the production, will be reduced by half. The cost will be reduced by half. And this is when our industries will thrive. That is the most important thing to do if you want to encourage manufacturing and agro-processing. That is the first thing that you need to focus on. And the most singular important thing, energy reduction. He doesn't talk about that at all. Doesn't speak about energy at all in any of these 4 points that they have here. Then we have 3, a focus on youths. The opposition leader's presentation offered much for young people. Now they're going with this young people line again. You would recall in the lead up to the 2020 elections and the 2015 elections, as a matter of fact, especially the 2015 elections, they spoke about young people and in the youth vote, and they will involve youth in government and so on. They rallied heavily among young people. And many young people supported them. And the moment they took office, they installed a cabinet that had the old stalwarts there. Nothing exciting, no new representation, no new faces. And they had young people, and they do have some young people with them, but they do not ever give them a chance to serve in any leadership position. So they breached that promise in 2015. And many young people immediately realized that the APNU-AFC government is not for young people. They're about themselves and their cronies and the same old washed up leadership with the old ideologies and philosophies that have been there before since the Barnum era. Those are the people they put in government in 2015, and they gave jobs to senior citizens. They didn't employ young people, and they didn't give them any substantive position in government to be able to make decisions to lead a country for the future. So again, another empty promise about offering much for young people, talking about rent-to-own schemes. Bobby Norton knows what he's talking about. You know, he would bankrupt the country trying to build rent-to-own schemes. You can't just be irresponsible and talk about building homes for people that they can just rent to own. That money has to come from the public's purse. Money that can go into building projects, bigger projects that will benefit all of our people, not some people, but all of the people. Salary top-ups. What is a salary top-up? Who is getting the salary top-up? Which income bracket? How many people? How much top-up? None of this makes any sense. And there is no solid plan here in all of these measures that I'm listing. Tuition-free University of Guyana, we already promised that. And that will be delivered before 2025. 4, he has a focus on communities, including indigenous communities. You know, our Amerindian people shouldn't listen to a word this party has to say about their development, about Amerindian development. Amerindian people have had one government, the PPPC, that has always advocated on their behalf and for their development. This is the party that Aubrey Norton belongs to, APNU AFC, who was recently in government, who sent home 2,000 CSOs, who had a minister that called Amerindian people greedy, and that if they want more land, they shouldn't benefit from the oil proceeds. And you're talking about developing Amerindian communities. We will build sustainable communities, meaning communities with high quality education. Not a single school they built in the hinterland regions. Recreational and other modern facilities, potable water, electricity. What about electricity? What about potable water? What is the investment? What is the program? What is the project that you are presenting to the public that will deliver potable water? What about electricity? Do you remember when Aubrey Norton was, not Aubrey Norton, this was Harman then, when he presented the 2020 manifesto, and I think the back of it had some lights and stuff, and he said, this is what our investment in electricity will look like, you know, and he showed the book with all the lights. I mean, this you know, sometimes when you talk about these things, you sound foolish saying it because of how idiotic it is. But these statements actually came from real people. And these are the same people who are coming to you now and projecting themselves as better than the PPP. And so we have to remember these things, and that is why I do a constant comparison and I do a constant contrast, because deciding on which political party to vote for is just like making any decision in life. You weigh the pros and the cons. And so every day we go through a process of comparing one situation, and we compare the results. If we go this way, these will be the consequences. If we go that way, those will be the consequences. Every day we are faced with decisions. And so deciding who is going to lead your country and who will continue to lead Guyana on the path to prosperity is a decision that we all have to make. So all of Aubrey Norton's 4 points or 40 points plan that he has, how much ever point plan that he has, all are nonsense. There's no specific, there's no specificity in any of these projects here. It's all song bites, it's all sloganeering. No solid plan. And so nobody can support such emptiness. And so I want to thank my operator for his patience tonight. I'm sorry I didn't get to that video. We'll probably leave it for another program. But I want to thank you for being a great audience. Please share the program if you have not shared it as yet. Thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to joining you same time, same place next week. God bless you.